tēnā koe hone, tēnā tātou katoa, urino, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Aoira, e turima, e tarainua hone, a te tinga, a te mono, e te aro ai.
By the edge of the garden, he's sitting at the base of his tree. Green grass surrounding his feet as he grabs a bite to eat from his basket.
The first speaker will be Sir Mark Solomon, who's the chairman of the Māori Carbon Foundation. We got involved in this because there's a whole lot of non-Māori all around the world involved in this industry, and as is often the case, Māori tend to be sectioned off, just as threepence down, threepence a year leaseholders. We want to change that. We think we can change that. We put together a deal that we think is better than anything being offered anywhere in the country.
It is a pleasure to be here amongst you. Today is my first time ever in Kaitaia. I have a little story to give you about how we became involved in the Māori carbon farming. Around 2 years ago, Tariana and I were invited to come and talk to a company that wanted to know how do we come out and talk to iwi hapu. So what do you want to come out and talk to iwi and hapu about? Well, we've got an offer. We'd like to come out and talk to whānau iwi hapu. We'd like to access their land. We'll lease it off them. We'll work with the whānau to develop a forest because it can be a mix of indigenous and exotic. We'll lease their land off them for 30 years, and at the end of 30 years we'll walk off and we leave the forest in the full ownership of the whānau or the hapu or the iwi. What do you think? I said, it sounds like a pretty good perpetual lease system to me. Pardon? Well, I much prefer the word partnership. I don't like the concept of you just coming out to lease the land and you will gather all of the carbon credits and then in 30 years you'll hand it back to the whānau. So we got into discussions and we've come up with another model where it's that we come to you to access your land. There is no lien or any financial liability on your land. There is no costs to you if you work with us. So we will work with you to design the forest. We will plant the forest and pay for the planting. We will pay for the insurance. We will pay for the management of the forest over 30 years. Our deal is based on the figure of $22 a unit. For the first 7 years, we will take the carbon credits to defray the costs of the planting, the insurance and the management. After that, it is a straight 50-50 swap, 50-50 share I should say, on all carbon credits. At the end of 30 years, we do walk off and you are left the sole owner of the forest, and you can still gather the carbon credits off it for another 30 years. And possibly a little bit further, but it does drop off as over time. You can have an indigenous mix, but the more indigenous you have, the more the natives you have, the higher the cost of planting. It's roughly 4 to 1, 5 to 1 in the cost of planting natives. And the sequestration rates of natives are far less than of the exotics. So there is a point where your native and your exotic mix makes it uneconomic. But in a nutshell, that's what our offer is to you. We work with you to assess your land if it's available to come under the ETS. We plant it, we insure it, we manage it in conjunction with the landowner. We take the first 7 years of credits based at 22. Roughly, if it gets over $40, then that time frame reduces to about 4 years. So 4 years we take the credits, then it's a straight 50-50 swap and share right through to the end.
The view is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful from way down here.
The office has three main purposes, and the first one is to represent the interests of landowners, and I think we have to get that right out there at the beginning. The Māori Carbon Foundation is about business, it's about economy, and I think it's one of the most exciting things that's happened actually, because we've got so much land that, as Sir Mark says, isn't making us wealthy. It's not bringing wealth into our community, and this is an opportunity. By a quirk of fate, we got left with all the rubbish land, and finally we're in a position where that land is going to return a good return to their owners. But here is a way that we can get wealth into rural communities, and I, for one, really, I'm looking forward to that. Hallelujah, our time has come. The polluters have got it all their own way. Sir Mark didn't actually mention something he told me last night, which I did not know. The Antarctic is going to melt, and it's melting from underneath because the sea is warming. And when that ice mass melts, it actually lifts the sea level 60 metres. What we've had in the past is a regime where the major polluters, the ones who cause most pollution, are the agricultural sector, and they've been left out of the ETS system. So basically they haven't had to pay for their pollution, so there's been no incentive for them to change their ways. The proposal is that they will come under the ETS system soon. That's a proposal. However, even if they do, the New Zealand First Labour Government agreement has it that the burden of that payment will fall on the taxpayer. So still the farmer isn't going to be given any incentive to change the way they use their land or the way they manage their stock. So it is a crisis situation, and one of the things the Māori Climate Commission needs to do is actually to argue against that, to argue against people being given, privileges of continuing to pollute and having that offset by buying carbon credits. What we have to do is actually bring down our total emissions. That means everyone taking responsibility. And it's my job to get in front of Parliament, to get in front of the community, and to raise awareness that this is not fair and it must change. In terms of the pricing, here's another example. The polluters want to have no cap. They like the $25 cap because already we're seeing that cap's wanting to lift. That's the market saying it's not high enough. We as carbon farmers, or you as landowners, want to have that cap lifted, no cap. And what that does is the value of your carbon credits, the true market value, is then able to be reflected. My job is to argue no cap. The polluters' job, and they are a huge lobby, we're talking Air New Zealand Z farmers, their job is to say keep the cap and bring it down, basically crush your income. That's another job I got to hold. The other job I've got is to make sure that the Māori world view is taken seriously, to normalise the Māori world view. And by that I say, in opposition to a culture that demeans the environment, who thinks the environment is just there to be controlled, to be used for their own good, where mankind is the most important being on this planet. To balance that with the Māori world view based on whakapapa. So we think about our responsibilities to every one of our whakapapa that hasn't been born yet. And that's a completely different view of time to the Western model, which is to think about me and my needs being paramount. Me and my need to make $1 today, tomorrow, and the next 3 months is more important than the planet of the health and my descendants to come. That's the Māori world view, and that's the responsibility of the Office of the Māori Commissioner, to take our world view and to say our view is superior. Your view is going to kill us all. our view will heal. So kia ora tātou everyone, and I hope you join us on this journey.
Birds chirping and singing, this is how the world should